Hi, how is everyone doing? That didn't sound promising, but so hi, my name is Christine Tsai. I'm one of the partners at 500, and I'm really excited to be introducing the next three speakers. They're all companies that we've invested in. They're in the 500 family. Just very briefly about 500. So we're a seed fund and accelerator program. We're based in Mountain View, but a lot of us in the family are international or even other parts of the US. So we have over 450 investments to date, about 25 folks on staff. And our accelerator program, we're on our 6th batch to date. So we've been around, our 3rd birthday's coming up in a month or so. I think taking a step back in terms of what types of companies that we like to invest in, sort of what our investment thesis is. Obviously, we, as a seed fund, we make a lot of small bets, first checks into companies, and then where we see companies doing well, we like to double down. And I think that the next three companies are examples of companies that have fit into that model well. We did, first investment, we thought they were doing well. We decided to put more into those companies. And then local specifically, I think that, for what we like to invest in, general, with 450, actually more than 450 companies, there's obviously a lot of different areas in terms of the types of companies that we've invested in. But I think if I could say a very general overarching theme, it's things where they're not necessarily the trendiest or the sexiest companies, but there's a big opportunity, which is obviously, there's no question about that for local. Distribution is scalable, and I think common misconception is that local startups don't have scalable distribution, which is obviously not true, and as you'll see in these next three companies, and that the revenue model is very straightforward and clear. So, we've done a lot of investments into companies that are attacking the local space, and I probably won't say too much more than that, so I don't want to take too much time away from our companies. But yeah, it's there's a lot that is changing in terms of distribution platforms for startups, and I think in different verticals, the general concepts are the same. It's just within those verticals, how you attack customer acquisition and distribution can be very unique to that vertical, and the same would be for local. So with that, I will hand it over to, I guess the first company is Appstack. Take it away. All the way from SoCal.
How you guys doing? I got to take a picture for my son real quick. I told him I was going to go work today to make money, and he wants to know what I do, so I just got to take it. Can you guys just say hi over here? Yeah? Okay. All right, cool. He'll totally dig that. He'll ask what's that guy's name? What's that guy's name? And I just gonna make up names like, that's Bob, that's Frank, that's Greg. All right, so let's start. We're a 500 startups company. This is my second startup. They were investors in both, and I can't say enough about that fund. So any of you guys looking for investment, I always say consider them. They're a great venture capital firm. All right, so we just launched an app called Promote. We wanted to make marketing and payments simple for small businesses, and it's really overcomplicated right now. So just to let you guys know about us, we've raised about a Series A from Google Ventures, 500 Startups, Soft Tech, and Tomorrow Ventures, which is Eric Schmidt's firm. So simple sign up. We want small businesses just to sign up with their phone number. Nothing else really matters. We can pull all the other information, photos, address, name, category, all from a phone number, right? And it's like the most ubiquitous piece of information about a small business that's like everywhere. Everybody has their phone number. So we can pull all different types of information off this, and we can automatically fill out screens like this. So it limits the sign-up process and allows them to instantly go into stuff that's more valuable, which is like picking subcategories on what type of customers that they want. And we automatically build their ads for them. So now behind the scenes, like we all know what happens here. We do ad targeting and day parsing and all that kind of more techie stuff, but the small businesses don't even need to know about that. All they need to know is that their ads are built, ready to go. In about 30 seconds, they can start getting phone calls from customers like searching on Google from their mobile phone. So how do we track those calls, and how do we inform our customers that we're actually doing a good job? So after they sign up on the app, they actually have no calls in here, and we basically replicated visual voicemail on an app for these small businesses. Now, what happens when they get calls is they get a screen like this, where we actually do caller ID lookups to everybody who calls them, and allow them to star just like you would in Gmail, saying this is an important call, or do you remember this person who called you? Because a big problem in small businesses, as you guys all know who provide marketing services, is they forget that you sent them calls, or they don't think you sent them calls, and how do you prove it to them? So now what we're able to do is simply allow them an app they can pull up every day, listen to the conversation they've had, and actually say, hey, remember that conversation with Todd? That was a really good call. Maybe you need to call him back. Go ahead and star that, and we'll put it in a subfolder for you to respond to that later, just like important email in Gmail. So we offer advanced stats if they want to go a little bit past that, like how much of their budget is remaining to be spent on Google, how much have they spent so far, what's come out of that. You got 35 calls and 107 people request for directions. And what happens after that? These customers come in, they call them, they set up they set up meetings, and they get these customers. What happens is they get money from those customers. And right now, it's too hard for them to manage their marketing and then manage how they get their money. So what we've done is we've integrated payments into our app, where you get phone calls, and now you got that phone call from Todd, you can listen to it, remember, oh, that was a good call that guy back, and actually collect a $125 payment from him instantly and get it transferred into your bank account that week. So now they can simply meet up with Todd. If you're a personal trainer, they got a phone call him back, charge their card, email them the receipt, and move on from there. You don't have to think about anything else other than I got customers calling my phone, I took a payment from them, move on. They don't need to worry about anything else. ROI is that simple to manage. So if they want to go in and actually post more information about their business, they can take photos from their phone, upload pictures they've already taken on their phone, manage their deals, and manage their services that they offer. And all this information gets taken, normalized, and produced into ads that we know will convert. So in the end, we end up having basically landing pages that look like this, and we take data as a very, very big asset to help all our customers. So right now, about 50% of our clicks turn into leads for these small businesses versus an industry average of 20%. And how we do this is normalizing all this data that these businesses give to us, put those into the ad units, and just constantly test. And I know that's been a theme around this conference is like, how do you utilize data? How do you optimize a simple experience for the SMB? And this is how we're doing it. So in the end, it really just comes down to simple customer acquisition, which is enter your phone number, get phone calls, take payments, and you're done. So that's what we're doing at Appstack. If any of you have any questions, I'll be over there. I'm pretty easy to notice with all the tattoos. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saumil. I don't have any kids, so I will not be taking a photo. I will be diving right in. So, first and foremost, my name is Saumil. I am CEO of a company called LocBox here in San Francisco. And the goal of my talk today is to focus on a challenge that is pervasive across all technology startups and growth businesses, but I believe is especially pronounced in businesses that are focused on the hyperlocal segment. And that topic today is how to recruit top talent, especially top engineering talent, in an environment like this one. So first and foremost, here's a quick picture of our team and a little bit about us before I dive right into the meat and potatoes of my topic. Our company's mission in life is to help local businesses generate revenue and foot traffic from existing and new consumers by building and selling to them integrated marketing that runs campaigns across multiple channels. So we are a multi-channel marketing automation software company. Specifically, we'll run campaigns for them on email, Facebook ads, Twitter, text message, and hopefully soon Twitter ads, all from one universal dashboard. So you build your campaign once, you run it everywhere, and unlike kind of the traditional social media broadcast software companies out there, we actually close the loop by processing payments through our system. So not only can you build once, publish anywhere, you collect revenue from everywhere, processes through our platform, we direct deposit money into the merchant's bank account, and last but not least, we're doing it across multiple channels, so reporting and analytics all comes into one platform. So that's what we do. We closed our Series A summer of last year with Google Ventures, Excel Partners, InterWest Partners, and of course 500 startups, and we quickly realized that the first challenge we had in front of us was not customer acquisition, it was not product market fit, it was not customer retention, it was the fact that we couldn't hire engineers to save our lives. So here, I'm here today to tell you about how we failed at the problem for 4 months and then turned it around in 3 months, conducted 200 plus interviews, and hired 4 great engineers with 2 more starting soon. So any of you that have been in hiring positions or are entrepreneurs or have been entrepreneurs know that this is a standard problem in Silicon Valley. Why in the world should any engineer come and work for you when they could be working at Box or Dropbox or Marketo or Salesforce? And if you could theoretically find this mythical engineer, how are you going to find the needle in the haystack if you're a hyperlocal company, and what are the challenges of a local-focused company in this realm? Here's what we quickly found. Most engineers do not understand local at all. They have buddies that have had success at Google, at Facebook, at LinkedIn, at Marketo, at Box, classical enterprise software companies, whether cloud or not, classical consumer internet companies, whether new or old, but most of them have not seen success in local. Most of them have no education of local, because the only thing that I hear every time I talk to one of these guys is, oh, Groupon was great in 2010 and Groupon was bad in 2012, which is kind of painting with a very broad brush. And they have this fear of, boy, this company is not going to make it because, well, nobody makes it. So I'm here to tell you how we succeeded, at least in the hiring process, which, as you guys all know, is very, very challenging and very important. Okay. I'm a Stanford-trained computer science engineer. I'm 31 years old. So obviously, everyone tells me, well, why the hell don't you just hire from your personal network? The reality is that half my friends are Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the other half are starting their own companies. So that really does not work, and I'm here to disabuse that notion if you're someone like me. And of course, everybody that has ever hired anyone knows that there's no such thing as a super recruiter, right? And you could try. And we did a month of reviewing bad resumes and doing worse interviews before we gave up. And last but not least, the most challenging part from my perspective is that most of the recruiting advice, especially around local, but for startups in general, is completely mindless pablum, right? Hire only the best. Great. How? Hire only A players. Thanks. You got one for me? So most of the advice is complete nonsense, in my honest opinion. And so you have to go create your own path, especially if you're running a local company. We tried everything, and eventually we got desperate. I'm going to show you a little bit of a tempest in a teapot. I don't know if you can read the screen or not, but there's this geek website called Hacker News where people kind of post news stories, and it's run by the Y Combinator community. And at some point we got so desperate that we actually hand-scraped 200 plus email addresses of great web developers around the country, and we emailed all of them in one weekend. And then some guy actually kind of had a bit of a fit and said, oh, these guys are spamming us, this and that. So that was not a high moment, right? And obviously I'm like, we've got $5 million in the bank and no one will talk to us? This is really no good. So we eventually learned the hard lessons, and after 4 months of just sheer abysmal failure, we changed tack and we succeeded, and I'll tell you how. There are 3 key needle movers that I would advise for anyone trying to recruit, especially in local, but for startups in general. First, tell a great story. Sounds obvious, it's not. Second, nail down a mathematical, analytical process. And third, surf the channels. Let's cover each of them in turn. Everyone wants a compelling narrative as to why they should join you. And we realized early and often that the only way to win was to tell a compelling, consistent, clear story for every touch point along the candidate pipeline. Everything from your careers page, which we spent an inordinate amount of time on, to the first phone screen with the recruiting coordinator, to every engineering conversation and the CEO. It has to come out straight, and everyone's got to sing from the same sheet of music. And we have to be able to compellingly answer why us and why now? We were failing at this, and we eventually got it right, and this was the first needle mover. Specifically, I talked earlier about how challenging it is to tell an engineer about the local space. We eventually wound up creating a whole series of documents, long-form narratives, about how this is the moment to join a startup in the local commerce space. This is it. If there was ever a time to do it, it is now. Search has a juggernaut. Social has a couple of juggernauts. E-commerce has a juggernaut. Local has maybe 5, maybe 10 companies with $1 billion in enterprise value. So if there's time to join, that time is now. And this really moved the needle for us and started getting us conversations. Secondly, you gotta nail down your process and you gotta get it down to a science. We needed to know our numbers at every step of the pipeline once we went from 0 candidate pipeline to a rolling candidate pipeline of 30 to 50 candidates on an ongoing basis over 3 months. We wanted to know how long was it acceptable before an inbound job application was responded to. Was it 2 days? Absolutely not. It had to be 24 hours or less. What stage were people dropping off at between initial contact to phone screen to code samples to first onsite to second onsite to offer? What were the percentage drop-offs? Just like in sales, and there's some salespeople in the room, I'm sure, just like in sales where high quality activity drives good outcomes, so too in engineering recruiting, high quality, mathematically driven activity drives great outcomes. And we know our numbers down to the floating point number at this point in time. And once we had this in place, we had to go out and buy the tools and the resources to actually support our process. I'm an early stage startup entrepreneur. I've never worked at a big company. I did 3 months at Microsoft and wanted to kill myself. So these felt like very big company decisions to me, right? Like buy an applicant tracking system, like that just sounds horrible. Hire a full-time recruiting coordinator. Well, why can't I do that? You can't. And so we hired a full-time recruiting coordinator to manage a 50-person candidate pipeline to herd the cats both inside and outside the building. And we bought SaaS software to actually corral and know our numbers down to the decimal point. And this was the second needle mover that made all the difference in our recruiting process. And you got to pre-close, right? I don't know how many times I've had conversations with people outside the building. You like them, they like you, and you get to the end of a 45-minute call and they say, oh, I'm early in my process. It's going to take me 3 months to make a decision. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll call you in 2.5 months and we'll talk about it then. Because I don't have 3 months to sit around and wait for anyone, even though they might have 3 months, because why not? Everyone's got time except for me. So we had to pre-close the candidate at every step of the funnel. Are you interested? What is your decision-making matrix? What is important to you? Do you care about money or do you care about career growth? If you care about money exclusively, this is obviously not the right opportunity. Go to Google. And you got to pre-close the candidate at every step of the way, and that was the second needle mover alongside process. And last but not least, it's important to surf the channels. I mentioned earlier that recruiters absolutely do not work for us, but we are now at an interesting cusp in technology where new platforms like AngelList Talent, White Truffle, and Developer Auction are phenomenally great platforms for sourcing motivated, talented startup engineers. There are engineers and there are startup engineers. And if you want to find the latter and you want to maintain quality, you want to be able to surf the channels, and you want to be able to go after people with motivation, not just skill. And we found that this made all the difference as well. So conclusion, 4 months of failure, 4 months of success, 200 plus interviews on phone and in person, hired 4 great engineers and 2 more on the way. And I urge you to go forth and recruit. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to try not to put you to sleep, so let's wake up a little bit, all right? So my name's Jeremy Mims. I'm the co-founder of OwnLocal. We are the automated digital ad agency for local media. So that means, in a simpler way, if you're a small business and you want to buy some digital advertising or some digital marketing, and you want to do it through your local newspaper, we probably power it, or we'll be powering it this year. We're backed by great groups like Y Combinator, Automatic, Baseline Ventures, 500 Startups, of course, the Knight Foundation, Digital First, and a lot of other people that have been messed up in my slide. But we work with more than 1,000 local media outlets right now, 1,000 local media outlets. Most of them are newspapers. And this year, we expect to work with more than 300,000 small businesses, actually powering their digital marketing, either in entirety or in some part. So I'm sure there's 2 different kinds of startups in this room today. There are those that expect to disrupt some sort of local players in the market. And then there are ones like us. We basically exist to save an institution that a lot of people have written off, which is newspapers. In the tech world, it's very common to talk about software eating the world. It's common to talk about all sorts of very disruptive technologies. And people that tend to work with existing players are kind of ridiculed a little bit. But we actually may be the biggest fools around, because we spend all of our time developing software, working with, and advocating for local news institutions. We have really one mission. We are a for-profit company with a non-profit mission, but we aim to save journalism. We actually have this very big mission, and we do it by paying for it. Just very simply, we pay for it, and we do it by turning local media outlets into digital ad agencies. This is a huge area of growth. You've heard people talk about it this morning, but it's not a common thing for digital ad agencies to have the software that they need. So they do everything by hand, they do everything custom, which is fine for larger advertisers. They can certainly make money that way, but it takes companies like ours to actually be able to automate as much as possible so that we can bring this down into the small business space. Small business space is not people that spend $2,500 a month on something. The small business space is actually people that spend between $100 and $500, which is where our software excels, and it can maintain profit margins that are far higher than what the newspapers can typically expect at that price point. So there are a few things that everybody knows. The first one is that newspapers are basically fucked. That's what everybody talks about, right? Everybody talks about it, and we know it because they tell us. They write stories about how their circulation is declining, how their revenue is declining, how in many, many ways they're not as good as they used to be. We also know that newspapers are being disrupted. There are apps like Saumil, Circa, Pulse, Flipboard, Craigslist that are all coming after newspaper markets that are all really, really valuable pieces of how they make money right now. We also know that in many ways it's probably better to disrupt an industry than to work with it. However, I don't really want to live in a world where local media is now reduced to a couple of tweets or something like that. So we've made our decision of where we're going to work and who we're going to help. What most people actually don't know about the newspaper industry or the local media industry in general is that more people right now are reading a newspaper than ever before in American history. Not just as just a function of larger numbers of people living here, but as a percentage. The New York Times has 2 million circulation on Sunday. 18 million people read the New York Times every month online. So more people online are reading newspapers than ever before. 2, no one has come even close, despite hundreds of millions of dollars being thrown into the space, of duplicating the local sales, relationships, and trust of local news media. There is nobody who's even close. So the other thing is there's more than 83,000 local salespeople actually working in media right now. If you were to pay all of those people, it'd be more than $4 billion as an expense per year. And that's actually something that we benefit from every single day. Newspapers actually work with more people or more small businesses than anybody else that you can add up together. And this is actually somewhat controversial, but it's true. There are a lot of really smart people that work in newspapers. And if you think that they haven't learned anything in the last 10 years, you'd be mistaken. They've learned a ton, and some of them won't be successful, but many will. So what we do is we monetize advantages, these relationships. They have a really, really good sales force. If you've ever tried to hire people and put them in a local market and sell your product, it's actually a really hard problem to solve. Newspapers are incredibly efficient at it. They're incredibly smart at it, and they are extremely profitable with it. In a town of maybe 30,000 people, you'll have 12 to 15 local salespeople actually selling newspaper products. If you thought about doing that on a Google scale or something like that, it obviously doesn't work. So the other thing is newspapers actually have really amazing traffic. They're the largest players in their local markets, but they actually are also, if you added them all together, one of the largest websites in the world. And we treat them that way. We treat it as a distributed platform for marketing. So we really think we're backing the right side. We're on the side of Franklin and Hamilton, and we believe that as an institution, this is an incredibly valuable piece of society. And if we don't step up with high-quality technology and save it, it really will go away. So just as an aside, since this is possibly the right audience, and most of the time people don't let me get up in front of everybody and talk because I curse too much, but we, in a very fundamental sense, believe that the agency model will work. It will work. It is working. It's making an enormous amount of money for newspapers we're working with this year. But if we can't fix the product, the newspaper product itself, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And this is primarily because the newspapers for a really long time have believed that they are the medium, or the message that they're sending is the medium. For a long time, they believed it was the paper. Now they're obsessed with tablets. Now they're obsessed with mobile. Now they're obsessed with whatever's going to come next. And this actually isn't all that important. the message that they've been sending for the most part, and this has been for probably 20 years now, is that we don't actually care about anything except our bottom line. They actually, and this is something that we hear when we talk to customers, this is a reason primarily why they're losing advertisers or losing circulation, is they focused on the bottom line at detriment to the product that they were creating. And they may not have thought that people realized, but really everybody noticed, everybody. And the entire industry suffers from what I call Wile E. Coyote syndrome. And basically they're always out there chasing a roadrunner. They're looking for some sort of product or service that's going to come along and save them, or allow them to catch that roadrunner. And instead, they go running off the cliff. Profits stay the same for a little while, and then they drop. And it's really, really time for newspapers to actually stop running off the cliff with the latest invention. It's really time for them to start focusing on high-quality things. It's about making a meaningful difference in our customers' lives, our readers' lives, our users' lives. It's about executing well on the basics. It's not about throwing these big Hail Mary passes. It's actually about running the ball down the field slowly but surely, yard by yard, and grinding it out. So I have a very radical idea if you work with newspapers here. It's quality first. Gosh, this got all fucked up. Quality first, not any sort of platform first. It's about creating something of meaningful value, creating something that's irreplaceable, creating something that cannot be duplicated in any other way. Because everything that we can do to make you money will only go so far if the product that you create doesn't support it. Because what people are really investing in is something of value, something of quality. No one really cares about buzzwords, not at all, least of all me, least of all your customers. The result of buzzwords has not been good for the industry. What we need to do is focus on this quality. So let's talk. If you are a media company, we'll make you lots of money. We prefer that you invest that money in journalism. We realize that sometimes it's going to go to a beach house or a yacht or something like that, but I guess we're flexible on that. If you're a technology company, let's see if we can work together. If you're not directly competitive with us, we have different ways for you to plug into our ecosystem, and you'll sell a lot more of your product through our distribution strategy. And if you're a small business, you can buy our services through the person that you've known and trusted for years at your local newspaper. We're OwnLocal, the automated digital ad agency for local media. And my name's Jeremy Mims. If you want to talk, I'll be over there. Thank you.